Welcome back to the Ranch Hand podcast. I am one of your hosts, Noah. My co-hosts are Josh and my brother and my dad, Stephen Taylor. On this podcast, we talk about things related to what we call Bob, which are barbells, outdoors, and brotherhood. At the beginning of each of our podcasts, before we get into our one today about being a teammate, we're going to do our debrief. So I'll start this week. I was not a great week for me working out wise, mostly because I had some weird back pain. It felt like I had growing pains again. And then I also was having some stabbing pain in my quad, so that was fun to deal with. But lots of homework because school's in full swing again. So did a lot of homework this week and did not do a lot of barbell pushing. So whoever wants to go next. I'll have Dad go next. We'll do Josh last this time.
Zero on the barbells because, well, I had a week from, I had a really crazy work week last week and I caught up with sleep this week. So really I got a lot of my, 10,000 steps in, but not a lot of other stuff as far as barbells. But I've been reading every day. So that's good too. Been getting in some good reads and
Yep.
I've ate well. So those are all good. I've been eating pretty good, but yeah, much needed catch up sleep this week.
Nice. Josh, all right, let's hear it. Put us to shame.
I worked out every day this week, you know,
Nice.
with my well, I both did my team football workout at the school, and then I did my own workouts too.
Okay. Well, Josh, you're the only one that's been doing good so far, so keep it up. But yeah, so I guess well, minus Josh, we all need to get back on the workout grind. So, well, Dad and I guess.
Yes.
But anyways, so today we're going to talk about what it is to be a good teammate, or good team player. So, um, I feel like this was kind of Dad's idea of a topic. So, Dad, what are your first initial thoughts of when you think of a team player?
Um, well, that's a good question. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you can look at that. I mean, being a team player in a marriage, on a team, um, just finding out what your role is like in society and trying to do that in a brotherhood, whatever it is. It's kind of deciding who you are, and then kind of doing the best you can to be you. And it's really evident in teams how that works. So, um, I follow my college alma mater, Go Cougs, and their philosophy is, and their mantra is that it's 1 and 11. That everybody there's it takes every one of 11, and so each one person just has to do their job, right? And and if everybody has that mentality and is in the same sync, then they have a lot of success. But they're very focused on, yes, team as the whole, but the one individual getting better for the team, if that makes sense. So I think that's a really good. Um, anyway, that was my thinking. Is to be a good teammate, you have to kind of be good yourself. My coaches used to always say that a team is as strong as its weakest link. And so, number one, if you're really strong on a team and there's somebody weaker, then you need to be there to like help them up, not tear them down, right? You have to bring them up because you are only going to have as much success as the weakest person on your team. And
How
so
did
that's kind
you, so you mentioned that family, well, like your marriage, and then there's like obviously sports teams, and then in your case, it would probably be your professional career team where you have assistants and PAs and nurses and all this. Are there differences in how you interact with those different teams or versus or are the interactions similar?
yeah. So I mean, you obviously there are different roles you play on different teams for sure. And my my role at work is more I'm like I'm the top I'm the more the leader, the coach at work. I'm not I'm more I set the tone for the way that things work. So if I have to be the one that sets the tone. If somebody's screwing up, I have to call them out. If they're, I'm also the one that if they're not screwing up, I need to make sure they know how much I love them and love what they're doing. And then also just, from everything through the whole transition of patient care in the end, I am the one that is the most responsible. So I have more skin in the game than everybody else. And so I set the tone and it needs to be done my way, which is, you know, tough to say. At home, that's not the same. I mean, you're more of a, it's different with your wife and stuff because you guys are kind of joint at the hip doing that together. So yeah, it's just different in different responsibilities we have. It was definitely different when, I was on a football team um, and it's just definitely different.
Yeah, makes sense. Josh, what about you? What would you say makes a good team player?
Well, leadership.
In what way?
I I this week at school because I'm in like a leadership class and stuff. This kind of helps, but and leadership is actually I have a quote that I used this week in class. I'll just read it. Uh, you cannot have a strong leadership without passion. So basically, when you're on a team and you want to be a leader, nobody's gonna want to be on your team if you don't love it like you want them to love whatever you're doing. Like it's not just a title of you to given, it's more like something that you gotta show because some leaders, and I know a few, just have the title, but do do they really act like one? That's not really. And then basically you if you want other people to get better, and you don't even have to have the title leader to be a leader, but if you're on a team, you need to act like a leader. So then once others see you, you should, if they're doing the right things, follow the things that they're doing to become
So,
better.
so like, you're being an example type thing.
Yeah.
Is that all? What do you think? Because you're saying being a leader, can be a lot of people are given the title or like the title of like leadership. You're the leader, or like the CEO, we'll say, versus those who actually earn it. What is the biggest difference between someone who is just given a title versus somebody who actually earned the leadership?
Someone who's just given the title is basically just chosen, but they don't have the qualities of an actual leader. Like, you don't want a leader that's just has the name leader, but acts just like everybody else. A leader's supposed to stand out in a group of people and be able to lead a group of people the right way instead of just being average, I guess, like everybody else. But everybody, even if you're not, don't have the name leader, you should act like one because once other people see you, they'll want to be like you. And then it just grows and grows. And when you're on a team, if everybody wants to be a leader, you can do great things with that.
Okay. And how have you strived to be a leader for your fellow students or your fellow teammates? What have you been doing to that you think has been helping you become a better leader?
Uh, well, for me, I feel like even when I'm tired or want to be lazy or don't feel like doing something, that's the best time to go as hard as I can and be the best that I can because once people see you still going and giving it your 100%, even when you don't feel the best, that's like the best time because, you know, that really shows who you are, I guess. So always being like that 24/7. And I always, even when I like had a bad day or something, I always try to be energetic and positive so then I can affect other people in a positive way. And then it's like I'll pass it on to them and they'll be the same.
Have you seen that influence other fellow students or teammates?
Yeah. Well, like being more the like energetic part, like if you're acting like really happy and energetic, usually some other people are gonna join you in being like that because they, I guess, see that somebody else is having a good time. I guess they want to join that. So,
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. I think there is a big difference. I mean, there are good leaders who the leadership title will say the CEO title is given to them, and then there actually are good leaders because they are doing kind of setting that example and doing the things needed. Um, as so leadership, I think can play a very big role in being a team player. Because I think as a leader, you have to know how to be able to step back and allow people to, succeed and try and improve. But do you think being in a team setting that you also there should be points of where you should be a little selfish too?
yes, because let's just say people aren't trying, people aren't giving the same effort as you, I guess. You have to be a little bit selfish and basically, I don't know, like tell tell them what to do and like or doing something on your own instead of with everyone because you can't always trust people to be able to. You should be able to, but you can't always trust them to be there and help with a certain task or something. But like, yeah, I don't know.
That's okay.
Yes, you have to be selfish a little bit, not to a point where it's unnecessary, but to be a leader sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely a fine line of being selfish and then where it's turning into an actual problem. Dad, I know you said that you know, in your professional setting, you're kind of the coach per se. Um, and how much of that do you take like other people's thoughts and ideas or feedback, or is it more of it's more the highway, my way or the highway type thing, would you say?
Um, so I have surrounded myself with really good people and people that I can trust. I know who I can trust and who I can't. And I lean into their strengths and let them solve the problems. So I mean, I I don't, I don't think it's my way or the highway. I've changed things because people around me are really good and we talk about it and are always trying to get better. And that's what kind of another being a good teammate is. Obviously you want to be in a situation where, I've been on some championship teams and I've been on some non-championship teams. And and there can't be a huge ego um, on a team. It's hard for you to have a lot of success if there's a huge ego, I think. Another thing a coach used to always tell me is big team, little me. But uh, for example, we had a guy on our state championship football team that ended up playing college and pro football, and he was the big deal. And he was the quarterback and he was everything else. But there was a time where he thought he was kind of better than everybody, and then all the linemen decided, hey, we're going to let everybody come through, and we're not blocking for him this time. Um, and he learned real quickly how big he was. Once, after a few times, he just got his butt kicked because the team was like, listen, we're in this together. You know, it's not about you, it's about us. And the only way we succeed is by all of us being the best we can together. Right. And, and that team became a championship team. If you don't get that, you just get a bunch of individuals that cannot, work with one another and, get mad at each other and are just yelling and not being proactively solving problems together. And if you're not a source of that, then, you can't have that winning experience as a team or as an individual because you are only going to get as far as your team does most times. So I read a study. I'm sorry, I should look it up again, but it essentially had the power of they show how you put a very negative person working with a group of people, and you'll find that the work of everyone around them gets worse. Right? They do less, and they become less effective. But if you put a positive person and a person that's really a great worker or whatever with a certain amount of people, and maybe they're just all average, that the work around them will get better. They'll get more productive, which is an interesting study, which again shows you the importance of, hey, as an individual, I can, I need to be the best I can be. And how do I do that? It's not like I take on the mantle. I'm going to be the lead or anything, but you just be the best you can be, and not get positive, not get mad at yourself, kind of just, be positive, keep the goal in mind, that kind of stuff. And people around you probably, everyone's been around somebody that makes them want to be better, you know. Hopefully, that's why I married your mom, because I really liked the person I was around her, and she made me want to be a better person. And so you want to surround yourself or be on teams where that is the number one, you're that type of influence, and maybe there's others that have that kind of influence too, because that team's going to do amazing things.
Um, in your guys's, this is a question for both of you. Do you feel like, um, how do I want to word this question? So how do you feel like should you hold yourself to a higher standard than you should your teammates, or should you hold the same standard for, say, you and your teammates?
I I think you should hold a higher standard for yourself because if you're worrying too much about your teammates, you're probably not worrying enough about yourself, and then you basically could would be like a hypocrite, I guess, because your teammates like about in the sense of like worrying about people, you should be worrying about what you're doing before your teammates because once you worry about what you're doing, that will then you'll be able to tell worry about your teammates and what they're doing.
So do you
But
think
a
that,
leader
sorry, continue, I didn't mean to cut you off.
a leader can't like n- not have the same standards that he has for his teammates or the people that he leads. So I guess you could say that like you should worry about both the same, but like you should be worrying about yourself first.
Okay. Dad.
I mean, that's kind of a obviously the only thing that you can control is you, right? You can't control what's happening around you, but you can control you and how you respond to things. I think if you put too much pressure on yourself, then you don't allow yourself the freedom to be human and maybe make a mistake, right? And that's the biggest part of a team is realizing and going through the things when it's not perfect, being able to go through the hard stuff and not just completely implode. And so if you put so much pressure, yes, you have a standard, but I think the only pressure you can put and really control, like for example, I mean, I remember we were in the regional championship football game, okay, and I was a receiver, and the play was for the running back to run, and I had a big block I had to make, okay, and um, we were down by points. Well, it was the week before the region. So if we won this game, we were the region champs. There was one more week in the season, and we, it was a team that was going to be. We needed to beat them. So I went out. I made my block, and basically the guy kind of fell down. So I saw another block, so I went and made another block, and I ended up making three blocks. Well, the last block I made, I clipped him in the back,
Mm.
and they pulled a flag on me, and the guy had run for a touchdown, right? And and they called it back because I clipped, and there wasn't one coach that yelled at me, and the reason why is I was out there, I was trying my hardest, And I actually had done, my effort was up here, right? And it was an effort mistake and not just a hey, I didn't care mistake. And there's a difference, and I got pretty I really it was I didn't really get completely upset. I mean, I was sad because we lost the game, right? And I felt like it was my fault because the touchdown would have put us ahead. But he wouldn't have been there in the first place if I wouldn't have made the first block, right? And and so I ended up realizing, you know what? I didn't feel bad about it because I was out there. It wasn't something I wasn't holding back. I was absolutely doing my best. The It didn't turn out the way I'd hoped, right? I expected, hey, if I'm going to do my best, we're going to get that. But that's all I could control. And the guy, I thought it was a bad call. The guy, the last second, turned his back on me when I was going out to block him. And so, I was kind of to the side, but I couldn't control it. And the coaches were like, that wasn't a clip, and everything like that. But, my head was on the wrong side. And the guy slipped past me. And that's, but again, I was doing my job and some. And so anyway, I just we you have to be sensitive when you put so much pressure on yourself so that you don't get down because in life, in teams and everything, things aren't always going to go perfect. And you have to be able to, I mean, how many times did I tell you, Noah, or maybe not Josh so much, but just you got to stay in the game. It moves too fast, right? You can't sit there and worry about something that just happened. I mean, it's move on. And because we're still playing and you got plenty of time to make something else happen good.
Yeah, I'm curious if that thought changes a little bit in more of a surgical environment, though, because there's
How do
more.
you
Well, let's say for an example, like you're having to perform an open heart surgery or something like that. Like the error for mistake or this mistake of having an error is got to be a lot smaller than per se a football game or something like that. So how does, I guess, expectations change in that kind of environment?
well, you bet the best surgeons plan A doesn't always happen. I mean, if you think that it is easy I mean, there's a lot of surgeries that are pretty rote. I can go and do this, but you can get into trouble. And if you freak out and can't keep your cool and keep moving on, then trouble gets really bad. Like you don't have time. The good ones know how to I mean, surgery can get bad and it has nothing to do with preparation. It's just because you're working on humans and stuff happens. Their bodies are different. They don't have good tissues. Something else is wrong you didn't realize before, all sorts of things like that. But if you cannot move on and make decisions, then it can get worse. So it doesn't, yeah, mistakes potentially happen or things don't go the way you're planned, but you better be able to keep your cool and keep going because then you're really on the clock, right? If you got somebody under the knife or under anesthesia, you have no time to beat yourself up for, man, how come I didn't see that or something else? You've got to keep in the game. It's definitely going.
Okay. Just was curious if that perchance had a little bit different implications. Um, but so you guys are saying a lot of good stuff. So obviously, like having leadership is important in a team setting. Being the example is also very important. It gives something for people to follow and to just be able to aspire or know what they need, the direction they need to go. And also being a little selfish is also part of the being a team player is because you have to do your part, but you also, I mean, certain kids like a 6'5" or not even that, maybe like a 6'3" 300-pound guy is not going to be your wide receiver or your free safety or something like that in football, just because they're not going to be able to move as fast as a 6 foot, 185-pound guy. So where does the line between being selfish and then also being humble come in though? Josh, how about you in a team setting, being selfish but then also being humble about, you know, that you might be better than somebody else physically or stronger or faster, but um still have humility.
Mm. I feel like that's when you like do put you put others in front of yourself in those situations. Like, let's say, I don't know, you score a touchdown in football, but instead of saying, "Oh, I did that all on my own," or "Did you see how good I ran?" You say, "Did you see how the lineman blocked?" Or "Did you did you see the pass the quarterback threw?" And tell them good job for what they did, because not ev you can't do that many things alone in your life. Like, so yeah, I mean, and you can celebrate yourself, but you gotta make sure you're giving other people their glory, I guess, for what they did too.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good point. What about you, Dad?
I mean, to be on a team, there's times you have to follow too, and you have to be a good follower. I mean, there's a just to bring a little Christianity into it, I guess, but there's the saying that, the best leaders in the world are those that follow Christ, the ultimate leader, and mimic kind of what he is. So yes, you have to be just as excited for other people's moments in shining as yours, right? If you truly are part of a team. And yes, it's so great to succeed and do something well, but you need to, if you really are the ultimate team member, you're just as excited for somebody else or just as hurt for somebody else when something goes bad. Or and I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? You kind of you get to be joyous all the time if you're winning, and if everybody's failing, it's miserable being on a team, right? But yeah, I mean, there are times when you have to take over, and you can do more, and you have to pull them with you. And then there's times where you just got to jump on the train and be a great follower and just keep chugging and do your part. And I think your time comes on a team. That's the beauty of being on team, is you have moments in the span of minutes to seconds where that relationship changes.
No, I think we all have to. Well, I think the other part of that is you also have to be willing to take those moments when they come because if you don't, you're gonna miss them or somebody else is gonna take them.
Yeah.
Um, and since we, it's one of our things to talk about brotherhood, um, how could we as a family, since we're all related, how could we be better teammates for each other? Josh, any thoughts?
How can we be teammates for each other?
Yeah, how can we be better teammates for each other?
Mm, I feel like pointing out areas where someone else is doing wrong in like a respectful way, or ask for ask them for areas where you could also do better, and like and also be there for them, like for they need help learning something or a asking them for help.
So you would say, essentially keeping each other accountable when we're not doing the right things or doing what we need to be
Yeah,
doing, keeping us in check, but then also, but obviously doing it in a respectful and like not a tear you down manner. And then also being willing, humble enough to ask for help, but then also all of us being understanding and not judging and just being willing to give that help when needed. Is that kind of what you were saying?
yeah,
Okay. Is there anything else that you think, or does that kind of sum it up?
that's kind of it.
Okay. What about you, Dad?
It's a different dynamic, right? 'Cause, sadly, we've seen each other in our worst and each other in our best, and so, um, you know, I've probably cried in both situations. Cried because I was so proud, and and cried because I've been hurt so much, just because it's pretty intimate in a family, right? And so, a lot of times as a dad, you feel like your role is like always leading, but sometimes you just need to not, you know, I can overdo it sometimes, you know what I mean? Um, and there's a time when you just have to realize that people have to make decisions for themselves. And as much as it may hurt and they're going down a path, um, I think I've been bad about kind of the thing, I don't know, not being a good teammate, I guess, was, making sure that you're not beating them when they're already down, right? Not theoretically, not specifically, like,
You're not
hey,
taking a switch to them or something.
yeah, not you're already down, and I mean, obviously that changes as you get older because, I kind of when you guys knew you made mistakes and went against my will, sometimes I'd spank you, do other things, and whether it was right or wrong, I don't know, um, but the reality is you feel like you have to, your responsibility is to teach them to grow up to be men, and I'm proud of the men that you guys are becoming, and so my role obviously changes less and less, and I have less. I just have to, you know, I feel like, I'm at the part in my life where, I've made decisions, good ones and bad ones, and I'd hate for you guys to make bad decisions, but that's the only way you learn. And I made some bad decisions, you know, and I know that happiness comes from the good ones. And I would say that, my part is just to be here for both of them. I'm here to celebrate your awesome experiences, and I'll be here when things are bad. And that's kind of, I mean, you guys just need to know that, but I'm there for the good and the bad.
So you're for all of us to be better teammates, you think along the lines of just being willing to obviously not beat each other down, not figuratively, not literally, and just being there for each other, even in the good, for being there for each other in the bad, the good, and the in between.
Forgive and, realize that, none of us are perfect. I'm sure you were frustrated because we were late getting to the call today, I could tell,
Kind of expecting it at this point.
could tell you're a little frustrated with us that we didn't think it was as important. And, it is. And I appreciate you, sticking with it. I mean, you didn't give up on us. Um, I, and I think that's the biggest thing as a family. There's this story in priesthood, if you don't mind me sharing it real quick,
Go
kind
ahead.
of, but we're talking about, relationships with God. And basically, it talks about going to, going to, if you are if you're trying to have a relationship with him, he tells you to come unto him and he will be there for you essentially. And one guy used the example that he had when he was young, he wanted this dinosaur. He was like 4 or 5 years old and he wanted this dinosaur. So he felt like he went to God and he prayed and said, but that dinosaur never appeared. And and then I realized to him, I said, well, you know what? It's because you gave up on it, right? You didn't keep, God will always be there, always, unless you give up on it, right? But sometimes you may not feel like he's answering your prayers. Um, and, and, if you would have not given up on that dinosaur and kept praying and asking, you would have gotten an answer and you would have found a way to give up, to not, to get it. And I think God says that same thing to us. And the thing I would say differently to anybody that says, "Hey, listen, God doesn't answer my prayers," or "Hey, I'm not, I don't feel loved." I'm like, "Well, don't give up on me. Don't give up on the brotherhood we have. Don't give up on God because He's always going to be there." And the problem is, and the same thing, it goes well with the team. Do not ever give up on a teammate, right? They're never so far. You cannot ever, and don't ever give up on yourself, and definitely don't give up on your relationship with God because He's always there. Anyway, if that has something to do with it, you can edit it if it doesn't.
Well, that's good. No, it's good. I think that is, um, Joelle and I, obviously, I think a big aspect about, like, Joelle and I obviously have been going to therapy because we have some bad communication, um, that we have going on between us that we were working on and getting better about and things like that. And I think a lot of times when teams fail or marriages fail or relationships, whatever they are, they fail is just because people give up on them and don't take steps to try and improve them in any way. And obviously, Joelle and I are going to have a rougher road ahead of us because of personal decisions that I'm choosing to make. And so we need to figure out our bad communication so that down the road it's not going to be a problem for us. So that way we don't have that problem of growing apart. And I think the same goes for family settings, teammates. If you can't, like, if you're not willing to, I mean, there are points where you have done all that you can and you can't do anymore because the person is not willing. And in those points, it's more of it just turns into you kind of wait, but you can't just like sit there and wait for them to come back. You have to obviously move on and continue to live your life, but you also have it in the back of your mind to welcome them back with open arms like Christ does with literally everyone.
There are people that kind of choose to not be part of the team. A team's got to have some certain rules and things like that. And there's times where it just does not work in their life and they don't want at that time and can't be part of it, right? And that's the kind of like we said before, that's the coach's decision where he kind of decides. Um, I just read, and I'm not sure if it's true, but the Packers just let a rookie go because he was doing things that were not part of their team mentality. And so he's a good player, a rookie, and let him go because he chose to be so individual that it took away from the type of attitude and spirit that they wanted in the team. And that was the coach's decision.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is a good point. So, Josh, any thoughts on that at all, or
Mm, no, I don't. Not really. No.
okay. Well, yeah, I think that we talked about today with being a leader, we're setting that example and not giving up on people and being there and Um, just like you guys were saying with what you think we as a brotherhood, could do better about, keeping each other accountable, which has been our kind of thing on the podcast. We could probably be a little better about being on time to these so that we're actually not having to do it at almost 9:30 at night. Um, and
Keep us accountable, Noah. Keep us accountable.
I
Let's
can
make
only do so much from the other side of the country.
You wanted to give up. Don't give up on us,
I'm not
man.
giving up on you. I'm just at this point, I'm almost accepting the fact that they're just going to be later than whatever I say they're going to be or would like them to be.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, but then Josh was saying at, being willing and humble to be willing to ask for that help, and then also having the no judgment and just being actively willing to help in any way possible. And then Dad, you were talking about making sure that we don't beat each other down, but then also that we are just present in there for the good, the bad, and the in-between experiences, and always willing to be there for each other, which I think are definitely things that we will continue to work on. So, but with that, that will do it for our episode today.
If you enjoyed the show, like and subscribe.
Get outside and do something. And I always forget what I'm supposed to
You
say.
just generally just use our motto of Bob and just use that. Just use that as the exit. Just use those, hit those points.
Barbells outdoors. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, just use, you can make it whatever you
You know
want.
what? Get outside, get grounded, pump some weights, get stronger, and be part of a brotherhood. Get out there, get stronger, healthier, and happier.
Perfect.
All right.